Khachapuri.
Bless you!
For the uninitiated, Khachapuri is a disc of cheese-stuffed bread. Think of it kind of like an amalgamation between a cheese pizza and a Hot Pocket, except not totally disgusting. And the country of origin of this delightful dish is a little place called Georgia.
Georgia the country, not the state.
That's right. Capital city Tbilisi and former member of the Soviet Union.
While Georgia is largely unknown in the West, in the Eastern Bloc, they have a bit of a, let's call it, a reputation. But in actuality, Georgia is a lively place, filled with wonderful, warm people. And they're especially known for their food, wine, and hostile hospitality. As an example, here's a typical exchange that you would have when going to someone's house in Georgia. Amordoba, dajcie kibicio, czamy. Argindat, czamy bichora, czamy. Czamy shin. For those of you who don't speak Georgian, which is, statistically, most of you, basically you're accosted by your host to eat and drink everything in the house. While this can be a bit tiresome, it's an excellent display of the culture and national spirit of Georgia. And I think that no dish better embodies this filling nature and hospitality than Imeretian Khachapuri. So fill a glass, because today we're going to make Khachapuri. Sakartvelos, Gaomarjos. While there are dozens of versions of Khachapuri, the most common and ubiquitous is Imeretian Khachapuri. Simple to make and easy to adopt, it's the best place to start in terms of learning to make Khachapuri, and a perfect recipe for new bakers. In baking, I feel like accuracy by weight is vital for replicating recipes, so I'll be using metric measurements here. Apologies to my fellow Americans. For this Khachapuri you will need flour, water, milk, eggs, cheese, preferably sulguni, olive oil, yeast, butter, and salt. Ingredient amounts are in the description below. The first step is to scald the milk by bringing it to a steamy heat, but not a boil. First we combine the yeast with a drizzle of honey, or a sprinkle of sugar, and add just enough of our warm water to help the yeast bloom. Stir to combine. Hey guys, just a quick tip on the bread. If you guys like a fluffier, bigger bread, then make sure that you do add the egg. But if you'd like a thinner, denser Khachapuri, then remove the egg and replace it with either 50 grams of scalded milk or 50 grams of water. But it's your choice. I like it with the egg. Now that the milk is nice and steamy, remove from heat and measure out 150 grams. Now refrigerate the milk. After 10 minutes or so, the yeast will have bloomed and the milk cooled. Combine the yeast, remaining water, and cooled scalded milk, I know it's an oxymoron, with the flour. Roughly mix it until it starts to come together into a shaggy dough. Now we want to add 1 beaten egg, a pinch of salt, a glug of olive oil, and mix thoroughly. It takes about 8 minutes of mixing to get a sticky ball of cohesive dough. If you're worried that the dough is too sticky or wet, let it rest for an hour so that the flour can hydrate. If it's still too sticky, work in just a bit more flour before the final rise. Set aside, covered, and let rise until doubled in size, either in the fridge overnight or 3 or so hours at room temp. Now we want to carefully pull the dough from the bowl and shape it into a ball. You do this by gently folding the dough over in on itself, sort of like making a snowball and petting a kitten at the same time. This is an important technique, and if you don't get it immediately, don't worry. Practice makes perfect. Pulling the dough from the back in a downward motion across a countertop will help use the dough's stickiness to pull it taut. This helps in making that sexy smooth surface. Divide into 3 even portions. Although you could make either 2 super large Khachapuri or 4 smaller ones, I personally feel like 3 is just right. Lightly flour an out-of-the-way work surface or spare pan to set the dough into proof, and start preheating your oven, around 450 Fahrenheit, 250 Celsius. At this point, they almost look like our pampushki. Now we grate our block of fresh sulguni. When it's super fresh, this cheese is incredibly hydrated, and it even pulls apart in layers, almost like mozzarella. If you don't have access to sulguni, any fatty, lightly salted, meltable cheese works well, so feel free to experiment. We've now grated our cheese. It should have an almost doughy texture, but still be well separated. If you want, you can add a bit of mozzarella, or any other unsanctified additions to the filling. Now we want to mix in 1 or 2 beaten eggs. 1 egg gets the job done, but I like 2. The egg basically just holds the cheese together. The cheese should have the consistency of undercooked scrambled eggs.
Yummy!
Shape them into balls, 1 for each khachapuri. You want them to be just slightly smaller than the ball of dough. Alright guys, now here's the tricky part. While gently pressing the ball of cheese into the dough, pull the edges up and over, engulfing the entire cheese ball. Make sure you tightly pinch the top closed to make a sort of sphere of dough-covered cheese. Flip the ball over and gently and evenly press down on the ball to flatten it. Run your fingers out and along the edges to make sure that you feel the cheese has spread to the rim of the dough, as you continue to gently flatten it into a circle. Once you feel like the cheese is evenly distributed and the khachapuri is round enough to your liking, roll it out with a rolling pin. I made this first one a bit too thick, should have taken it down another 1/4 inch or so. In the end they should be about 2 centimeters thick, or a little bit less than an inch. Once rolled out, you want to deeply score the top. If you don't, the moisture from the cheese and egg will make your khachapuri swell from trapped steam, or worse.
And it exploded.
If you'll use a sheet to bake this on, you can put it directly into the pan. But I use a preheated pizza stone, so I transfer the khachapuri to the oven using a pizza peel. It's not really an important distinction, khachapuri isn't too fickle. And since khachapuri feeds off the vibes of the chef, now is a good time to give it a little bit of love. Oh, kargi khachapuri khar, vai me, lamazi khar. Now it goes into a quite hot, like a 475 degree oven? I don't know, my oven doesn't really have a temperature gauge, so let's just say really hot. Once in, keep an eye on it, because it cooks quickly. 10, maybe 15 minutes is all you really need. Check for doneness, rotate if it's browning unevenly, and remove from the oven and place on a wire rack to cool. While still screaming hot, give your khachapuri a good rub down with butter. The bread will eagerly absorb it and give this dish just what it needs. Even more fat. Leaving your khachapuri with a buttery, almost biscuit-like flavor. Now let it cool for a bit. If you eat it now, the cheese inside is molten and will melt your tongue right out of your face.
Will it burn my mouth? It'll destroy your mouth.
Once cooled, it will keep for 2 to 3 days and is highly portable, so feel free to eat it on the go. It can be eaten on its own or is the perfect partner to any meat or veggie dish. Crack open a bottle of saparavi, or your wine of choice, and tuck into this beautiful Georgian treat. Are there other Georgian dishes you want to learn to cook? What else would you guys like to learn to make? Let me know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Until next time, eat well, friends.
Happy end!